the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
Richard Jakpa on the Asamebo. Na your gun idea. Your lawyer who could done or my moon. Near judge for who done there. And from one in the plans, the strategy, the to be daddy. Na Nsem-Pii because lawyer Paul and watch retenancy. Na or review a lot of top secrets. Enya samgetwa. Na oya Richard Jakpa kwa faso yinedi ene nyina aba. De oyinedi no ekuo bem. Ana why say witch hunting. Na the most idea kese say sedintia Richard Jakpa ne ye fe say atofo se woni abri nyina say 700,000 euros. Ewa hefa. Eno the MPO documents be bio 700,000 euros. And then Richard Jakpa says he can away. And no, and then the part much will review the United States 700,000 euros. Be a fade Jakpa can correct. And no, and a member say a bit. Young good lawyer Paul and much critically. Or analyzing say, and this is for my Mujino as I can some of you. Oba be pedi. Etivo yango ninguti lawyer Paul much emrasia.
People sending me the stage to cross-examine Richard Jakpa in the second part of the cross-examination. The first part was done by Deputy Attorney General, former President of the Brno Ahafo Regional Bar, Alfred Tua Yeboah. These are the details of what emerged in the court. And as you know, the matter is still in court. And so in making this presentation, we are merely reporting what's happening in court. We are not going to make any prejudicial statements relating to how we think the outcome would be. We're sharing with you so that you understand what happened in court. So this is a court report. Case Latoforsen is the defendant and the Republic is the prosecution. So the key points that came out of today's court were three. As always, we will isolate the key points for you viewers and then we go into them, delve into them one after the other. So the first part of what happened in court was the admission of Jakpa's dismissal letter from the Ghana Armed Forces into evidence. That letter was admitted into evidence. The second one is after a bit of struggle, it was admitted to evidence. The second one is, as you see on the screen, the legality of the Big C agreement. And that's important because the Attorney General has been stressing that the agreement, the ambulance agreement, it's being an international contract pursuant to the provisions of 1992 Constitution. I believe Article 289 or so, I can't remember well, had to go to Parliament. It needed parliamentary approval. So the Parliament of 2012 looked at it and they approved it. The fact here is that the Big C company was not part of what was approved by Parliament. And that's what it means about the legality of the Big C agreement. Big C is the company that Richard Jakpa was an agent for, the company that was to deliver the ambulances that Richard Jakpa was representing in Ghana. Okay, the next one is issues about the commission paid to Richard Jakpa. As you all know, viewers, at the end of the day, a case Latoforsen is being prosecuted for occasioning financial loss to the state. Now, the financial loss to the state for which Mr. Latoforsen is being prosecuted is 2.1 million euros or so, significant amount of money. It turns out in court today that Richard Jakpa earned from the taxpayer 700,000 euro for no work done, absolutely no work done. That's what came up in court today. This is very interesting. You now see how people who are desperate to record, people are fighting because I think they knew that this day will come and they were hoping to prevent this day from coming. That is why they file a mistrial. That is why they do a press conference. They say they have some tape because they don't want us to know that Richard Jakpa, Ghanaian taxpayers, MPP foot soldiers, NDC foot soldiers, me, I'm one of them. We are all foot soldiers. Listen. Richard Jakpa took 700,000 euro of your money. Those of you who are shouting, Richard Jakpa, the guy in the box, he said in court today, admitted that he has collected 700,000 euro of the Ghanaian taxpayers' money into his pockets for being a representative of a company that was to deliver ambulance that did not deliver a single ambulance. Your money, my money, has gone into his pocket, 700,000. And Johnson Asiedu Ketia was presenting this guy as a paragon of virtue at a press conference together with Samuel Nsem-Pii, the National Propaganda Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. They together held a press conference, presented Richard Jakpa as a paragon of virtue. They did not tell us, and they always don't tell us the whole truth. They did not tell us that the said Richard Jakpa had benefited from the taxpayers' money 700,000 euro. Viewer looking at me, Kwesi Mensah in Aboba, Kofi in Takrade, Mansa in Kumasi. Have you collected 700,000 euro of the taxpayers' money for no work done? If you have done the work, the taxpayer needs to pay you, no problem. Richard Jakpa took 700,000 euro of the taxpayers' money into his pocket. Now you understand why they said mistrial. We don't want the trial. We don't want the attorney general. Godfrey Dame is a bad boy. Take him out. You see how Nsem-Pii was saying Godfrey Dame is evil, because they knew that if the trial progresses, Ghanaians are going to turn their guns on anyone who has taken their money. And that is Richard Jakpa. Let's move on. Admission of Jakpa's dismissal letter from the Ghana Armed Forces. The prosecution, led by Alfred Tuah, Deputy Attorney General, sought to tender the dismissal letter which terminated the employment of Richard Jakpa in the army into evidence. This was faced by an objection by Thaddeus Sori, who attacked the relevance of the document. Tamaklo, who sought to alert his counterpart on his feet to say that the evidence was self-serving, was scolded by the court when the court asked whether he, Tamaklo, skipped his law of evidence classes. Hey, this was a bit dramatical. The court subsequently admitted the letter into evidence. So the story here is that when they tendered the letter, that this is the letter of Richard Jakpa, the man in the dock, this is the letter of Richard Jakpa, and that the prosecution sought to tender that in evidence, Thaddeus Sori, counsel for the defense, raised the objection and said that it wasn't relevant. Whilst Basit Bamba was on his feet, court report says that Tamaklo was telling Basit Bamba, I believe in his very arrogant connotation, Tamaklo, very, very arrogant boy. In his very arrogant connotation, he was telling Basit Bamba that, now I can say that about Tamaklo because I've hosted him on Good Evening Ghana and praised his work as a going to Supreme Court for Senator Rollins. But since then, the guy has become so brutally arrogant, I just stay away from him. I saw him at a funeral. The way the guy behaved, I just stay away from him. I don't know how people, just something small, NDC legal, that just gets into their head and they think that they become some, hey, take your time, Oga, relax. There's a long way ahead. Relax, relax. He rose up in court, giddy, to tell Basit Bamba his senior. Basit Bamba taught even me, Basit Bamba taught me, so he's his senior cry. But he's his colleague in the court, he's a counterpart. He was telling Basit Bamba that the evidence is self-serving. Then the court, when lawyers say the court, they mean the judge. Then the court told him that, did you skip your evidence lecture? Sit down. That's why we said the court scolded him. In the conclusion, the court admitted the evidence. What was in the letter that was written by the Ghana Armed Forces? And who signed it? Let's go to that. This is the letter. Army Headquarters, Burma Camp, Accra, 77539 something. 12 September 2007. Reference, Army number. Please. Release from service for unsatisfactory conduct. Lieutenant Richard Jakpa. These are the details. The above named officer was commissioned into the Armor Corps as a regular officer on 21st August 1998. All things being equal, the officer should have made the rank of captain on 21st August 2002 and a major on 21st August 2007. He has consistently failed his promotion exams and now lags behind his mates in rank. Also, his service with the colors has been largely unsatisfactory, marked by consistent fraudulent conduct, abrasiveness, and general indiscipline. Viewers, note the words that were used, and I'll come to the one who signed it. His service with the colors has been largely unsatisfactory, marked by consistent fraudulent conduct, abrasiveness, and general indiscipline. 2. In addition, Lieutenant Richard Jakpa has incessantly been indebted to various people / institutions during the period. An example was his long indebtedness to Recce Regiment PRI to the tune of $300, which he was unable to pay till authority was sought for the amount to be deducted from his salary. Wow. Throughout his service life, Lieutenant Richard Jakpa of number GH2899 has proved consistently that he belongs to a world incompatible with the decent and gentlemanly composure that the Presidential Commission confers on officers of the Ghana Armed Forces. He is a bad example by all standards, and his continued retention in the service is likely to cause more harm to the service and to himself. Indeed, in May 2004, a special report submitted on him by his commanding officer suggested that the officer had reached his ceiling. 3 years on, his new commanding officer describes his conduct as shameful and regrettable. Paragraph 4. From the foregoing, the continued retention of Lieutenant Jakpa is not in the best interest of the Ghana Armed Forces and indeed himself. It has accordingly been decided that Lieutenant Jakpa be released from the service forthwith. I am therefore directed to request that Lieutenant Jakpa be released from the service for inefficiency under Article 15, Item 2A, through continued lack of application of interest, and Item 2C, unsatisfactory conduct of the Armed Forces Regulations, Volume 1 Admin, respectfully submitted. Great. Signed, Brigadier General M.K.G. Ahiaglo, for Chief of Army Staff. Leave it there. Who is Brigadier General Ahiaglo? That's the question. Brigadier General Ahiaglo became the Southern Command Commander when Professor Mills was president. And when John Mahama became president, Brigadier Ahiaglo had retired from the service and he was made the Director General of the Ghana National Lotteries. To all intents and purposes, Brigadier General Ahiaglo, may he rest in peace, was friendly to the National Democratic Congress. To all intents and purposes. And why do I say that? And there's nothing wrong with that. Because Brigadier General Ahiaglo was Southern Command Commander during the Mills era. During the Mahama era, after he had retired from the service, the government of President Mahama found it necessary to keep him within the government sector, and he became a chief executive of the Ghana National Lotteries Authority. Who is Brigadier General Ahiaglo's wife? My very good friend and a woman that I thoroughly admire, Jifa Gomashi, the member of parliament for Keta or Ketu South. Please check. Jifa Gomashi, the member of parliament. Is it Keta or Ketu South? I'm not sure. Keta. There's no Keta South, though. It's Ketu South or Keta. Yes. This is Jifa Gomashi, the famous actress. Great woman, fantastic woman. She was Deputy Minister of Tourism. That is NDC Deputy Minister of Tourism. NDC Member of Parliament for K2 South. That is Jifa Gomashi. This is Jifa Gomashi's late husband, General Ahiaglo, who signed the dismissal letter to Richard Jakpa. Are you getting the things, viewers? So all this political witch hunting, and it doesn't seem to hold. The allegations of political witch hunting that has been presented in favor of Richard Jakpa doesn't seem to hold. This is General Ahiaglo who signed your letter. And all of these words inside was seen by General Ahiaglo, and he must have concurred on those words to sign out Richard Jakpa. General Ahiaglo was married to Jifa Gomashi, who is still a member of parliament for K2 South for the National Democratic Congress. So Richard Jakpa, the people who took you out of the armed forces are not Kwame Adokufo. He was defense minister. It's not John Ajekum Kufuor. He was president. It is the people you work with who found that you had unsatisfactory conduct. Now, viewers, let's come back to the question. Johnson Asiedu Ketia is a chairman of the National Democratic Congress, a big political party. Johnson Asiedu Ketia had been a member of parliament before. Forget about Samuel Jamefi. He's young. He's like me. We are all young. We make mistakes. Forget about Samuel Jamefi. Johnson Asiedu Ketia is not young. He's a seasoned politician. And he must have some patriotic streak within him because he's been a member of parliament before. Did he ask himself, who is Richard Jakpa? What is his background? What is in the case? What is happening before he conducted that press conference presenting Richard Jakpa as a paragon of virtue? The man that Asiedu Ketia presented as a paragon of virtue, these are the words that the armed forces used for him. He's a bad example by all standards. And his continued retention in the service is likely to cause more harm to the service and to himself. Indeed, in May 2004, a special report submitted on him by the commanding officer suggested that the officer had reached his ceiling. 3 years on, his new commanding officer described his conduct as shameful and regrettable. From the foregoing, the continued retention of Lieutenant Jakpa is not in the best interest of the Ghana Armed Forces, indeed himself. It has accordingly been decided that Lieutenant Jakpa be released from the service. This is the character of the person that the National Democratic Congress, 6 months to election, presented as a paragon of virtue to Ghanaians, who has conducted a recording of the Attorney General and who is happy that he has conducted a recording of the Attorney General and that he has found something in what the Attorney General in the recording said. The court, led by his lordship, said that he has listened to the tape 10 times. Nowhere did the Attorney General say that you should incriminate anybody. But this was the focus of Johnson Asiedu Nketiah's campaign. You may not be a supporter of the National Democratic Congress, but that doesn't matter. It is important that the leaders of Ghana, because of the youth and because of the future, they must have a certain streak of standard. Johnson Asiedu Nketiah should not be able to present somebody who an important institution of states like the Ghana Armed Forces has said these things about him. At the minimum, they should have checked or at least interviewed Richard Jakpa. Who are you? How did you get into this contract? What? They should have done that. Maybe they did. Maybe they did not. I don't know. But this is the end of the story. You see how sometimes it's important for patience? When the story broke, everybody was doing KKK. Wait, let us get there. The same said Richard Jakpa has also pocketed 700,000 euro. Ask Sami James that question. President Mahama has a press conference next week. Journalists, ask him that question. That President Mahama, raise your hand. They'll call you. Kofi Mensah from Oyerepa FM. You come. You say, President Mahama, good evening. Thank you very much. Please, records show that Richard Jakpa had been released from the armed forces on very bad behavior. Do you support and endorse the press conference carried out by Johnson Asiedu Nketiah, the chairman of your party, who is seated next to you, and Samuel Nsem-Pii, the national propaganda secretary of your party, who is also seated there? They carried a press conference on this character and presented him to Ghanaians as a paragon of virtue. Mr. President, do you support that? And then you go and sit down. Those days, that's the questions we used to ask those days. Me, I will not attend the press conference. I'll be listening to it on radio. Anyway, General, I salute. This is General Ahiaglo who signed the Jakpa's letter. This is him. May he rest in eternal peace. This is General Ahiaglo who signed Richard Jakpa's letter. He was the chief executive of the National Lottery Authority. General, those days in John Mohammed's period. Before then, he was the brigade commander, the Southern Command. Very, very strong soldier. He lived all his life at Labadi Villas. I knew him since I was 7 years old. This General Ahiaglo, he passed not too long ago. May he rest in eternal peace. So this is Richard Jakpa. Let's get back to the story. Where are we? The legality of the Big C contract. So Jakpa admitted to the courts today that indeed the contract, specifically to use the Big C specifically to use the Big C to convert the buses to ambulances, had not been approved by Parliament. Further, it was revealed in court that the contract to Big C to convert the buses to ambulances was in 2012, whereas the same Big C had only got its license to convert buses to ambulances in 2015. Meaning from 2012 and 2015, there was a subsisting contract when Big C didn't have the license to perform the contract. Let me just explain this to you viewers a little bit. So as we said, pursuant to the 1992 Constitution, the Big C contract had to go to Parliament, isn't it? It did. Did I say Big C? The ambulance contract had to go to Parliament. The documents that went to Parliament did not have Big C in there. Somehow in 2015, it is suggested that Big C was smuggled into the contract. This has been the subject matter of the conversation between the Attorney General and Richard Jakpa, for which Jakpa says that Attorney General said he should say something. The conversation suggests that Attorney General was telling him that your company was not in the parliamentary approval and you need to admit this in court, because if you do not admit it, you will come out as an untruthful witness and it will be difficult for any clemency to be given to you. This is the conversation Attorney General had with him. That listen, your company was not even in the parliamentary approval. The document that Parliament approved did not have your company. So your company was not approved by Parliament to carry out the work. And you should admit this in court when I speak to you. When they met in Justice Kulendi's house, this was one of the conversations they had. And Attorney General said, but your company was not there. So you have to admit it. If you don't admit it, you will be seen as an untruthful witness. And he said that Attorney General says that I should admit something that will incriminate or to force him. Today, he had to admit it. Jakpa admitted. This is the thing that Attorney General, so you need to admit it, because if you challenge it, you are an untruthful witness because the documents are against you. This is the matter. This is the matter. So today he admitted it. He even admitted, and maybe I shouldn't say that. I'll say that when he gets there. I won't say it when he gets there. The matter is still on trial when he gets there. Parliamentary approval.